Oh my goodness. Look at all of these great United Fanzine Organization zines.
Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew, or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. O God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Fie on't, oh fie! 'Tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely.
And hello everyone, it is Tom. This is the new releases video at FANzine Live, and I am excited to once again share with you the United Fanzine Organization review. Every now and then I have to put together a column for T-Frags, Tetragrammaton Fragments, the newsletter of the United Fanzine Organization. Among the different things I put in there are reviews of the different books. And what I have done with my column, and this is a copy of the latest newsletter, it came out in October, issue 281. This thing has been going for a while. You will note that my zine reviews are very short in this one. And what I did was I put my zine reviews into a video at FANzine Live, and I put the link there. So these are the ones that I look at the different pieces. If you're interested in getting involved with the UFO, or if you're interested in just subscribing to the newsletter, which you can do as well, our incoming chair is a gentleman named Rob Imes. I will put his contact information in the show notes, but also right here, you will see that we have a link that will get you both to our Facebook page, our public Facebook page. We actually have a members only section, but that's our public Facebook page, and also to our UFO website. So you can get all that at the link tree. It's all available there. We're going to pause right now, and when we come back, we'll start in with our books. Let's start things off with The Link by Alan Sissom. Alan is a returning member to the UFO, and this is one of his kind of welcome back pieces. So he has restarted his series, which used to be called Imagination Link. He's retitled it The Link. It's the first issue. It's a cute little mini comic. It's actually extremely well made. Nice looking quarter page, 2 staples, 1 piece of paper, done just like I do so many of my mini comics. Looks like it's photocopied, but gosh, the photocopying is so good these days. I could almost swear that it was offset print. Paper is probably a 24-pound stock, so a little bit nicer than standard Xeroxing. Not cardstock though, and that's fine. Alan has decided with his cartooning that he is going to intentionally take this old school. And by that I mean he is doing it totally by hand. He is doing pencils, inks, lettering. It's all on paper. It's all done by hand. There's no digital work being done on this. And that's kind of admirable. I really enjoy seeing people who want to try to apply themselves in that manner. I do a lot of stuff digitally, but that's largely to cover up for my imperfections as a creator. And even as lettering. I mean, sometimes lettering is the area where people say, well, nobody can read my handwriting. I'm going to go off and find a font that can do it for me. He does it himself, and it's very clear. It's very nice, and looks like he's might be even using the Ames guide because it's so straight. Hatching is nice. Always a challenge to draw a sphere. So the premise of this is, and he's got this robot here, which I believe is called Link. He's got this robot that shows up and discovers this character named Nate. There was a bright flash all around the world and everything appeared to change. And that's what this guy is saying. He says, what? That was when I first arrived here. And that's about all of the backstory you get on that. It would have probably been nice with the first issue to have a little bit more backstory as to why in the world is this thing here, what is it, what's its purpose, that type of stuff. Because with the number one, you kind of want it as a jumping on point. Then he starts talking about how this Nate guy eventually, or out of this strange arrival, strange bright flash, everything changed. Many people got odd powers. He now has mental power, so he doesn't have to talk anymore. He's using something that sounds like telepathy. They discover that his friends are being held captive and that there are these alien creatures. So together, Nate and Link come together and they try to save their friends. And in doing so, the aliens are like slugs. He creates a giant salt shaker. They're like, oh no, it's sodium chloride in lethal amounts, and they must flee for their lives like slugs do when faced with salt. Of course, they leave, and we're off and running. It's a fun little piece. 6 pages, 8-page zine, including the cover. What do we do with the other two? And this is something where I do have a little bit of a criticism. He gives the entire center spread to the United Fanzine Organization checklist. And this is the challenge of doing the checklist in a mini comic. I actually had to ask for assistance in getting a mini comic size page of the checklist because this is just too much. I can see giving 1 out of your 8 pages to the United Fanzine Organization for the checklist. Giving 2 full pages, and especially the center spread, which Alan's clearly a talented enough artist. He could have done something really cool with it. It is what it is. This is a very nice mini comic. I do like it. Let's see what's next. What is next, you ask? And that is The Improbable Girl and the Wonder Kitty by Joe Ely Carrales. This is issue 15. He cranks them out. Gets a little better every time. I note that his corner box is looking sharper. He's decided to take his Improbable Girl and Wonder Kitty notion all the way to the top. So that's kind of the main title. And then he has his story titles, which is Journey to the Master of the World Part 3. Artwork on the cover by Terry S. Wood from Wandering Star. Very, very, very impressive, and very pleased to see Terry continuing to contribute in the world of fan stuff. That's very exciting to see. Nice little forward here. He mentions Collected Cranium Frenzy. Thank you so much for that, Joe. Always good to have a recap. Joe does his trademark comic book design. He loves his black borders. He loves his black borders between panels. He loves to have squared off word balloons. He has a very clear, I'm guessing, digital font. All of that helps. It helps a great deal. The premise of this is that there's this submarine, apparently a gentleman here to be trying to steal. So we have a love interest who I believe is partially related to the Wonder Kitty. I hope I'm correct on that. A lot of characters in this, a lot of exposition going on this. And so you have to just kind of play along and see what happens. The thing I've enjoyed about this is that Joe is improving as an artist. I like this piece where he's got the cats running. I think that's really strong. I like the boat in the background. He had really good boats and planes, I believe, in the prior issue as well. Another thing I like is this particular character, these guards. This whole book is very dark. If you look at this, the coloring and the shading, it's very dark. And I think it's accented even more so by the black backgrounds. So when you have these bright characters in here, they really pop. Some neat action shots. And then he throws in this notion of this evil genius who I think is supposed to be a stand-in for Elon Musk. This evil genius actually has a teleportation device and sends this guy off to the nuclear reactor where he gets eliminated. This is where the color contrast really hit me hard. I was like, wow, that's really strong. Good looking skeleton too. And again, when you've got the black background, your sound effects like that show up really good as well. A lot of exposition as we talk about. And then you start getting into your submarines. This guy got transported. He's now on a desert island. Nice combination of digital sky, digital water, and then what appears to be hand-done foregrounds. It's a neat combination, especially the water line there. The cats go and save the day. Nice looking power action shot there with a good colorful halo effect, actually. Then we get into the end and they all get transported off to an island, and our Elon Musk character actually blows up. Interesting use of a photograph. I wouldn't have thought to use a photograph there, but it is truly powerful. Those of us who lived through the Cold War know exactly what that is, and I think we all probably would have that same reaction. Joe then goes into the UFO checklist, a page where I'm not sure that the black was necessary. I think it kind of crunches everything in a little bit more. And then we go into the New People's Journal, which is his regular back matter. He's got a person named Mark Rostick, a nice little cartoon, a bit of a pulp type thing there. And it looks like it's going to be a continuing one. We get a piece about Eddie Morgan, a little profile of him, and then some of Eddie's work. Nice and kinetic, good uses of color, good uses of panels. I like the edgy looking hand-drawn panel borders. Then he even throws in the Impossible Girl and the Wonder Kitty. Nice touch. And then Eli Schwab, who is responsible for the Ghost Agents, and as you can see here from his Cosmic Alliance production, all sorts of stuff. So Eli Schwab's in here as well. Another nice looking issue. Joe continues to improve in his art skills. The book always is, it's immaculately constructed. Let's see what's next. We've got two books from Matt, or Doc Hoffman. He likes to go by Doc Hoff Comics. These are print-on-demand pieces. They certainly look like Amazon's, because that's the type of stuff I get on mine. We're going to start with Redeeming Horror and end with the Masque of Red Death. Redeeming Horror, great looking cover. This reminds me so much of the Dave Gibbons John Higgins combination for the aligned piece that was in Watchmen, kind of fleshing out some of the themes. Really nice looking stuff, and the coloring especially.
Hey everybody, got to call an audible here. I was planning on running with a video that included this edition of Redeeming Horror, coming from Matt Doc Hoffman. It is a fantastic little book talking about his background as it relates to horror in a kind of funny way. It talks about how, as a funny cartoonist, how he can parlay that into horror and the fun that he has making horror comics. And he does a very good job at that. However, the copy that he sent me, an Amazon print-on-demand book, remember, I use Amazon print-on-demand, had a number of these blank pages. And it's not just a single spread. Sometimes it was a single page. That's not to say I didn't get the gist of the book. It is a neat little discussion about horror and about his cartooning, the psychological issues of horror. But as I turn the page, I can't overlook this. He talks about things like why we like to read horror. He talks about some theories about horror. He talks about how it allows us to pursue the dark sides of humanity without having to actually experience it in person, which is nice. He talks about famous movies. He talks about Beetlejuice. Lots of really good stuff. Neat page about EC horror. For those of us who are into comics, EC is very important, but it's these darn pages. So I sent him a note and said, Matt, what's up with this? You didn't mean to have that, did you? And he wrote back very kindly and said no. He was kind enough to send me a second copy. And lo and behold, the whole thing looks great. It's all there. Love the Peanuts homage that he does there. The rest of the book is all there. It makes sense. And it actually looks like a lot of the material where he had blank pages, actually there was nothing there content-wise. But it's the feeling of when you have blank pages that it looks like it's being missed. I hate to be talking about that when I should be talking about what really is a great book. Redeeming Horror is a really, really interesting piece. It's a meditation, if you will, on horror, on him and his feelings of how horror can make sense as a cartooning vehicle. And he does such a good job. It's the most unexpected thing because he really doesn't draw like a traditional horror writer. You expect Bernie Wrightson or Stephen Bissett or someone like that who really just is able to scare the dickens out of you. Rick Veitch, those guys. You don't get that out of Doc Hoff, but you do get horror, and it works. And we're going to take a look at his next book, which is a use of his cartooning to deliver horror right now.
Next, The Masque of Red Death. And again, print on demand. This time all the pages look right. Where I find this one really interesting is he uses this Prince Prospero, has this character he created called Randy Rich. Gosh, if it doesn't look like Richie Rich. I love it. And he uses a bit of an EC style cover for this one, which I think is perfect for a horror comic. But look at this. This is an adaptation of The Masque of Red Death by Poe, by Edgar Allan Poe. Puts in a nice introductory piece, and then he starts going into this. And he has layers of artwork, terrific, simple storytelling, and he doesn't mince anything. He doesn't censor much at all. But I think the cartooning quality of the story makes this so much less shocking. Is that the right word? Makes it much easier to buy. I look at this and I see that Matt really can draw much more complex characters, but he doesn't have to. He doesn't need to, and I guess he doesn't want to. Nice looking piece here. Establishing shot with the different colored rooms. This coming into play later. And then the premise of this is that basically to survive this pandemic of the Red Death, our Prince Prospero decides to lock all of his friends with him in his castle, where they party for months or years, and everybody outside dies. And they've got the different colored rooms, as we saw in the lights. Nice foreshadowing there. Great looking use of the clock in the Scarlet Room. Storytelling is neat. The use of the different figures, the bong bong of the clock with the clock in the background. I mean, this is good stuff. Look at the silhouette styles here. I mean, talk about visual interest. It just continues and continues. A voluptuous lady drawn with minimal work, but just enough stuff. The crease of the smile at the end. Yeah, she's got ideas on her mind. And then we go back into our colors, and then we've got the character in red. Prince Prospero has to follow around. And again, it's just brilliant storytelling. The face-off between the two characters. Prince Prospero succumbs. And a nice little closing piece by Doc. And then he shares ads for his other stuff. And I believe there's a UFO newsletter, or checklist. Yep, right there. Great book. Need to get him a better copy of the logo. Shouldn't have that white bleed over on this stuff. We need to get him something better. This is not good. Masque of Red Death. Doc Hoff. Very, very, very highly recommended. Both books, actually. And our final book, Tales of the Broken Bee by Larry Johnson. Larry was very affected by a trip that he took a few years back to Bandelier National Monument in New Mexico, a place actually I've been to. It's outside of Santa Fe. Here's some of his inspirational work that he took photos of. And it's always good to have photo inspiration to make things look more realistic and the like. Full size, glossy cover. He doesn't go over the top on his gloss on the cover. Matte interior. No, or is this gloss? Looks like matte paper with maybe a glossy ink, if you will. But anyway, it's not as high gloss as this on the interiors. But take a mental picture of this, because you're going to see some really nice landscape work by Larry in this book, and it's because he had visual reference. He does a great job with his foregrounds, with his backgrounds. Multiple layers of his landscape enhances the realism just across the board. His colors, very, very on point with what you see here in the background. The thing I've noticed about what he does is he always has a very bright sky. And that was something coming from the Midwest when I traveled out to the desert Southwest that hit me is there are so few clouds out there. There often is just bright, bright, bright sun. He does a good job of portraying that sun all throughout. little bit of his visual reference again, but also a little bit of a discussion about the whole idea of where he's going with this, and talking about the relations between Native Americans and the settlers and explorers and cowboys, if you will, and then talking a little bit more about Bandolier. This is an Indian or Native American burial site. The guys, and if I can get the names right, this one is Ernie and this one is Clyde. Not the horses, but the people. So Ernie and Clyde. They go, and as they're observing that, I mean, look at this landscape. You can see where he gets all this from. It's just pitch perfect. Lady is observing that they stopped and paid their respects, shrouded, if you will, by the cultural divide. And then they go off and they have their meal and they get ready to go back. But they do have a discussion about how Ernie, I believe, got a letter about how his father passed away. His father was a bit of a tough character. And so there's a little bit of a flashback here. As far as he knows, his mother is dead. Pay attention to this. Larry has a very distinct style. You can tell it. The way he does his cheeks, the way he does his noses, the way he does his eyes, his eyebrows, his hats. You can tell a Larry Johnson book, and it's been this way forever. I've got some of his stuff from back in the 60s and 70s. It looks basically like this. He's got a house style. But what I did notice was on this, when he's doing his backgrounds and he's doing a little bit looser design, it's a very attractive cartooning style. I'm not encouraging him to go down that route, but if he ever chooses to, that would be a fun one to kind of indulge. Maybe in a Dream Diary book or something like that. And there's another example. But again, you've just got these great layouts. The other thing that Larry does is he has very few panels where he doesn't have interesting landscape. This panel, this panel. Everything else has something in the background. And it really develops a sense of place. And I like that a lot. This section has a little bit more, but he also has variety in his panel construction. His variety in where his characters are positioned, as they will, versus the reader or the camera. Distance shots, close-up shots. I mean, he does everything on this outside of doing straight out silhouettes, but it looks so much like material out of Alex Toth's 22 panels to make art look interesting, make comics look interesting. He's doing it right here. Nice establishing shot, but then the overhead shot as they get to the Broken Bee Ranch. You can see them coming inside the gate. Nice looking train. Again, landscapes. Interiors. Period interiors. Very nice as his aunt comes to town and drops off some material with him his late father wanted him to have. And they are, what he says, Indian or Native American things. Nice little story here, and basically what his father is saying is, I know I was a bad father. His mother was Native American, and they had cultural issues with that, and our friend Ernie is coming to grips with it. Again, landscapes. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff. But this lady, who we saw at the beginning of the story, comes back, and we discover that that is indeed Ernie's mother. So as Ernie heals up, they have a little bit of a reckoning from her perspective as to what Ernie's backstory was, what her name, Maria or Mary, what her backstory was. And then they decide that they're going to go back to the ranch and introduce her to the rest of the folks. However, tragedy strikes. Owl comes out, nicely drawn owl. Mary's trying to hang on and ends up not being able to do so. So the tragedy hits one more time. Note that we go from lighter sky, slightly darker or more ominous sky, to extremely dark sky. Wonderful touch. Adds to the tragedy, adds to the drama. And then he's got some reflections on the tales of the Broken Bee, and then some of the mail, which a lot of it is Tetragrammaton Fragments newsletter extracts, and then the UFO checklist. A nice looking book. Larry tells a good story. He doesn't do a ton of action, and it's not told in the bombastic Marvel DC early Image style. His action, I mean, like you can see, is this. You can tell that the horse is upset. You can tell that the bird is grabbing them. You can see that the guy's holding on, but it's not in your face action. I also, in reading the opening on this, was reflecting on a piece that I saw in an old comics journal that I've been kind of noodling through, issue 118 from December 1987. And it's an interview with Moebius. Moebius did both science fiction, and boy did he do science fiction, but he also did Western work with his Blueberry character. And Moebius has some really interesting thoughts about Westerns. His notion, more or less, is the Western was the last period in human history where man was not entirely in charge and in control of his surroundings. And so there's an element of wildness, of unpredictability. And as a result, you can take characters, drop them into the Western scene, deal with issues of the day, be it in film, comics, whatever, and it kind of works. And I think that's what Larry did here. He's dealing with issues of identity that could have been told in many, many, many locales, but he did it through the Western lens, and it works out really well. Master storytelling. Neat piece by Moebius. I actually have posted a reproduction of that section of the interview, the UFO Facebook page. So if you're interested, go to this address and take a look. It's in there somewhere on the wall. Let me know what you think, everybody. That's it for now. This is as I pull them all out, this is the United Fanzine Organization review. Let me know what you think about these books. Are there any that look particularly appealing? Are there any items that you want to see more of? Any particular creators that really strike your fancy? We had some good ones this time. Alan Sissom, Joey Lee Carrales, Larry Johnson, Matt Hoffman. And of course, it's all talked about in Tetragrammaton Fragments. Don't forget, leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, tell your friends. We looked at a lot of good stuff today, and I would love to have more people take a look at the great work coming out of the United Fanzine Organization. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. This is Tom. This is FANzine Live. I will catch you next time.